And welcome in everybody to another episode of Fantasy Fridays here with the High Low Sports Podcast. It is week 9 of the NFL season. We are getting right into the nitty-gritty of things. We're only a handful of week away from some fantasy playoffs going. It's time to start making a surge if you're a little bit farther behind. And if you're ahead, well, time to hold that lead as much as you can. We're talking about some players I think are gonna maybe not go nuclear, but I expect them to go off this week and could possibly have a nuclear explosion. We're gonna go ahead and start from the team that's kind of in the news of the week. We're gonna go with the Indianapolis Colts. I think Josh Downs, the receiver, he has he has a lot of potential to not only go over his expected, but to have a lot of points this week. He is cooked with Joe Flacco in the limited time they've played together. He had a bit of a slow start to the season due to his injury, but he is healthy. We saw it last week against the Texans with Anthony Richardson as well. We saw it in full force with Joe Flacco. Not to mention the Vikings are in the bottom two as far as fantasy points per game given up to slot receivers, which is where Josh Downs does most of his damage. I expect him to get a lot of those quick passes against that blitz. Joe Flacco likes to get the ball out of his hands quickly, especially when they're sending extra heat. Look for Josh Downs, especially in a PPR league, to have a bit of a breakout week again, if you will. We saw against Tennessee, Jacksonville, he was used a lot. Last week, he was used down the field. I expect Josh Downs to potentially be receiver one for this team moving forward, and I think it starts against the Minnesota Vikings. Next, we'll go with a more of a household name at receiver and go with Chris Olave for the Saints. He had a really good bounce back game last week, coming off the injury, the couple of slow games as well. He's had a bit of a slow start to the season like last year. Really good bounce back week last week with two different quarterbacks, Spencer Rattler and Jake Hayner. This week he does get Derek Carr back, and he is going against Carolina's defense, which has given up the third most points to outside receivers. There's no Rashid Shaheed as well, so I think Derek Carr blindly just chucking it deep downfield to 22 just for fun. I don't think that can't happen this game. So I do think Chris Olave is gonna be the feature target. They're gonna find a way to get him involved. I look for him to have a bounce back week and kind of a breakout week moving forward, and to get Carr back in rhythm. That's the best way to get him back there. So it'd almost be malpractice for Carolina not to get, or for the Saints not to get him involved this week against Carolina, which is clearly they're reeling right now. So next, we're going to go to the running back position. We're going to look at Devin Achane going up against the Bills, who have given up the third most fantasy points per game to running backs on the season. He had nearly 30 in a PPR scoring league in their first matchup. Tua is back, which makes him a lot more viable, a lot more opportunities for explosive plays. He was a little bit more back in action last week against Arizona, and that was Tua's first game back. I look for it to ramp up a little bit this week. It's pretty much a do or die game for the Dolphins this week against the Bills. They have to win this to stay afloat and keep fighting for a playoff spot. Look for Devin Achane to get involved a lot in the passing game as well as the running game. So look for Devin Achane to have a Devin Achane explosion like we saw in week 2 per se. Even if the Bills are cooking them in crunch or in garbage time / comeback time, Devin Achane I think will be featured a lot there as well. Last but not least, we're gonna look at DeAndre Swift, the running back for the Bears. The Bears need a bounce back badly after that choke job against Washington last week. They have been at their best when DeAndre Swift is involved a lot, when he is the focal point of the offense, for lack of better terms, both receiving the ball and running the ball. Cardinals have given up the 5th most points per game to running backs. And I do think this would be the time to do a lot of DeAndre Swift early play action, keep Kyler in that offense off the field, try and just they're really you can see how the players are talking about the coach, how the coaches are talking about the players. Things are on kind of shaky ice. If DeAndre Swift DeAndre Swift's kind of like the stabilizing force here. If they get him involved, get that run game going early, get him involved in the pass game, that could kind of right the ship and correct a few of the wrongs and at least kick the can down the road for the what feels like is an impending explosion coming to the Bears. But I think this is the DeAndre Swift getting involved early can delay that 1 week. So look for him to get involved as well. The Cardinals have given up a lot of points to receivers. So I wouldn't rule out them just trying to air it out. But if they're smart, I feel like you get the ball on the ground early and often with Swift, get him involved in the screen game, open things up for your other guys. But these are players I expect to have a bit of boom weeks, definitely by to exceed their expected points, to go higher than the projected point totals. Let us know down below who you think is going to go off this week and who you think might be worth starting, who might not be having as high of projected as you think he will do. But that's going to do it for this week on Fantasy Fridays. We'll see you all